Oh, don't move. I was supposed to do this last week. It's been a busy week. Let's do a mailbag, shall we? I asked last week for you guys to contribute. Would you look at the camera, not at your other monitor? I asked you guys to ask me some questions. Some of them I've given some thought to. Some of them I've completely forgotten because it's been a very busy week. I did get a new wheelchair, and it's still in the process of being fitted correctly. It was hot. We've had tornado warnings. It's been fun, let me tell you. I also picked up a game that I'm going to love, although I don't play very well on that. Anyway, so the first question, this is from my Facebook group page, Retro Sports Network, Midlife Crisis, says, I don't remember you mentioning this in the past. Probably not. But before you discovered sports simulations in its current format, okay, what were your hobbies, even sports-related games or ways of escaping? Certainly radio was certainly one. Why do you think I got into this lousy business? So that would be one. Shortwave radio. Actually, used to be a ham radio operator. Listening to ball games on AM radio. So that certainly was there. I got into playing these types of games about 40 years ago. Micro League Baseball and such. Avalon Hills, NBA, basketball, both for the PC. Also had Earl Weaver, one or two, I forget. And so those were there. But essentially, that would be where I would have started with the hobbies. Computer stuff, never been able to program, but there, and some sports gaming. As far as board gaming is concerned, I've done some RPGs, and certainly my fair share of Risk and that. So, but I discovered, my first sim was Championship Baseball, and I got that in 1983. So I was about 11 years old when I started to understand that dice and baseball were two combinations that worked together. Trying to think of, even then, we had those Mattel games. They weren't simulations, but the basketball game, I think I got it like 9 years old. The baseball one I got around then. I had Football 1, the one that you could run, and my best friend had the Football 2 where you could pass. So sports gaming is something that I've done for a long, long, long time. So hopefully that answers your question. And the radio stuff, I took some of my high school graduation money and bought a nice radio. It's that sounds kind of weird now in 2024 when you have smart speakers and everything like that you can listen to whatever it is that you want. But my first shortwave radio I bought was a tube radio at an auction, and I think I paid $8 for a Heath kit. It was great. I loved it. Also, didn't have a girlfriend or anything like that, so I would spend hours trying to, going through magazines and trying to figure out what to listen to and all that. The BBC, Radio Moscow, those were my favorites. Along with them, there actually was a station in Montreal that broadcast on shortwave. I lived in southern Vermont at the time, and so you could listen to some serious Cold War propaganda or listen to the Expos. What do you think I listened to? Go Expo. Mr. Gardner asks, what game have you tried that was so good that it actually surprised me? That was so good that it surprised me. Let me think about that. I go back to Action PC, the baseball game. I wasn't quite sure what to think of it. It was a lot of money for me when I first tried it. And obviously, we play an awful lot. Strap basketball probably was one of those things. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to like it. Turned out to be one of my favorites. Gems of War. There's one that you talked to me about. Oh, you got to go play this. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. It's the game I had the most hours in on Steam. That was so good that it actually surprised me how much I enjoyed it. I think Digital Diamond, when Mark put in the board game companion, I was really surprised how easy that was to do, and how much I enjoyed that. Status Pro Advanced too. The Status Pro is a good game, but Derek with Status Pro Advanced has turned that into another level. Um, so I guess that answers your question. Supermarket Simulator, I'm going to have a lot of fun with. Uh, as far as a surprise is concerned, I know there have been some games I've had some pretty healthy expectations of when I got them. Um, the ASG Golf being one of them, just because I spent a lot of money and loved it. But that wasn't a surprise. So yeah, I would think that the first time I pulled out Action PC Baseball because I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Diamond Mine is pretty good too. Um, it is good, but I wasn't surprised because people brag about it. Andy asks thoughts on folks collecting old APA and Strat cards for investment purposes. Whatever floats your boat. I mean, the resale market for Strat is huge. You get a nice set and live in a non-smoking house and don't write on your cards, and it goes out of print. You can probably double your money if that's the case. I know of also there's someone on Facebook that is sending Strat cards out to players to autograph. I think that's pretty cool. I wouldn't invest in APA or Strat cards for collectibles. That they are meant to be used and meant to be played. And I think that, as far as, if there's a season you're looking for that you're willing to overpay for because you can't get it anymore, in APA's case, it better fits a set of boards that you have. You might have an old set of boards or whatever. I can understand that. It'd be easier if everything was in print. To me, it's not something I would do. Again, for investment purposes, that usually means to me that someone's going to unload that help you unload that when you become really sick or when you're no longer here. And I just don't see general people as collector's items wanting a 1978 Jim Rice APA card. It's a pretty good card. I got the coffee cup to prove it. But the things with collectibles, as far as I'm concerned, is that there has to be a market for it, and I think that our hobby is so niche that I don't think it ever leaves that. So, people will do what they want, but it's not something I would do. He also asks, have you ever had a sim that you played and enjoyed so much early after you purchased that you got burned out and had to take a break from? I think that happens in pretty much all things you buy and you set up longer term projects. ASG Golf can do that. You just get flying through because it doesn't take too long to play a full round, and then you realize you've played 7-8 tournaments. So I think at some point that all happens. But with a new game, I remember buying one of the Football Managers, or Championship Manager, it might have been, on a CD, which I had to get through customs. So, yeah, you play that enough, and then you start seeing it in your sleep. Flight simulators, a couple of those. Same thing. Anything that with a lot of graphics, because it messes with your head. I've gotten better about that now. And again, we all rotate through games and such. It's just a question if you only play one game at a time. But yeah, especially in a sport that I haven't played before or haven't played a lot. So Time Travel Tennis played that a ton. And again, after a while, you either get sick of it or you start dreaming about it. And if you start dreaming about games, you've played them too much. Trust me, I've done that. But you go back to them after a while. Big Dave asks, thanks for all the content, advice, and encouragement. You're welcome. I've certainly discussed this before on the podcast and my channel, but he wants to see over time if my approach to preparing for season replay has changed or has it stayed consistent. Okay, good first half of that question. It pretty much has stayed the same. Football, when I was doing those, I would take the time to look up on Pro Football Reference how a team was played, who I should be looking for, because football, it really does take a bit of research to see that you're playing the teams right. Not every team plays the same. But as far as baseball is concerned and some of the others, I get a pretty good idea from looking at the stats within the game how they're going to go. Um, as far as, how do I doll up like a baseball replay that you guys see? Ballparks, I have to make sure that everything's in the right spot. Logos installed, or logos, pick the right logo. I have 18 gazillion logos. Pick the right ballpark pick the right logo, pick the right uniform. That's pretty much all the prep I do for baseball season. If it's one that's out of my wheelhouse, I might take a closer look to see, generally what I should be expecting for stats and standings, but I don't really hem and haw over. 88 was my junior and senior year of high school. If I don't know that one, then I'm never going to know one for that. So no, it really hasn't changed all that much for prep. And again, every replay, I've done enough of these projects on the streams to know that they're not coming out the way that you think they're going to come out. This particular year, the 88 A's are in a heck of a lot of trouble. The Twins are, I knew they'd be better than they would be in 87 as far as regular season's concerned, but they are, as we head into August in my replay, on the verge of winning that division. Kansas City's within a shout, but Oakland is 9.5, 10 games out. I don't see Oakland winning that unless the Twins collapse. And that's one of the great things about doing these type of replays, is that you never know what's going to happen. You're always going to learn something. But no, if you get too engrossed into what you think should happen, you're going to be disappointed by what actually does happen. And I don't want to be disappointed by what happens. I want to be as pleasantly surprised or as upset as a Red Sox fan can be with that, as you are watching it. That's the whole point of doing these things with other people. What is new on the horizon for the channel? I bought today on the Steam sale PGA Tour, EA Sports PGA Tour Golf. I paid $11.49 for the deluxe version that regularly goes for $90. Expect to see some of that, like tomorrow morning, because I've already taped it. Me at Augusta. These games have gotten difficult, and I like it. It's going to be fun. So I imagine that there'll be some sort of career mode where I trudge around and go play some of the 39 courses that come with the game. Second half, obviously, we're going to be doing the pennant races for 88. Not sure what we're doing after that. Not going to do a football replay. I really don't enjoy football that much, although it's the one sport I'll watch most of the playoffs for on television, which is interesting because I like hockey and didn't really catch any of the playoffs for that, and love baseball, but those are sports that I do on my channel, and I get that in that way. So I'm not sure what we're going to do in the second half. I always want to do more different sports, but I always seem to get away from that. The Dave Cup will continue to do that. The thought is, once we finish the 55 season, the new hockey game will be out, and I might do the same type of deal, 6 or 8 teams for last season, and do best of threes. I'm enjoying doing that. Again, I also bought a track and field game. Not sure how much of that is fun. So you never know what's going to do. There's always things that I like to do, but I'm not sure how well they stream. They are fun, and how much, enjoying doing things such as car races and sprints and long jumps are things that I like to do, but they aren't necessarily the best things to watch. So keep an eye on that. Glenn asks, with the passing of Willie Mays, who do you think is now the greatest living ball player? I think Ken Griffey is probably the closest to Mays as far as a 5-tool player. You could argue whether Koufax or Pedro Martinez is the greatest living pitcher, or Greg Maddux is the greatest living pitcher. So I would say Maddux or as a pitcher, and Ken Griffey Jr. as a ball player. Although, there's lots of, you could just insert name here. Pujols certainly was there, but I think if you're going to go with Willie Mays being the best overall ball player. Griffey's in that mold, and you could Barry Bonds too. Top 5 baseball movies of all time. I don't really watch movies. I would say that my favorite baseball movie was 8 Man Out, on the story of the 1919 Chicago White Sox, the Black Sox. That was pretty good. I enjoyed Bull Durham, Major League, Pride of the Yankees with Gary Cooper, and Damn Yankees. I'm not a huge fan of Field of Dreams. And League of Their Own is pretty good too. So those would be the ones that I would say. If you're looking for a comedy, Bull Durham. If you're looking for a history lesson, 8 Men Out. Dear Ron, yes. Mike asks, if you had the ability to redirect one ball, would it be Bucky Dent or Bill Buckner, and why? And would doing that change the outcome of the game? Sincerely, Mikey from Jersey. Well, the game was already tied when the ball went through Buckner's legs. So if I had the ability to win, and and Yaz popped out with the bases loaded in the ninth. So neither one of those momentous occasions would have changed. If I had a chance to redirect one ball, it wouldn't be either one of those, because again, other things there. If I had to go back and change one moment in Red Sox history, I'm pulling Pedro Martinez in the 8th inning of Game 7 in 2003. That's what I'm doing. And yes, it would change the outcome of the game. And I'm certainly not putting out Timmy Wakefield to close, because that's wrong. But between the two, I mean, to be honest, the fact that the Red Sox had the chance to win the 86 series is beyond ridiculous. You asked me before that series, I'd take one game of those in that series and be the happiest 14-year-old in the world. I would say Bucky Dent, because the Red Sox win the World Series, and so whoever won that game between the Yankees and the Red Sox, with apologies to Kansas City Royals fans, win that World Series. They were the 2 best teams in baseball that year. Pesky Paul asks, what is something you hope happens in the future with sports simulation games? For example, he's hoping for a replay basketball with a college basketball version. That would be one of them. I would love to see more merging graphics like Carrie Batts has done with Pro Strategy Football. A sim engine with halfway decent graphics. Action PC does some of that. Their college stuff is good. I'd also like to see a for sale version of a card and dice similar to Above the Rim or a Strat college basketball game. I think that is an underdeveloped market. There's quite a few college football games out there. Action PC sells college teams. 2nd and 10, I think, comes with 5,000 college football teams. Those are good there. A good card and dice. Now, I know that St. Patrick is doing matchup college football, and Anthony's done some with Glory Days. But if you could do like a Strat or an app of college football, I think it would do well. So college sports. Also, I'd love to see, Pocket Pennant Run does some minor league and Japanese and Korean leagues. I'd love to see that on an APA or a Strat scale as well, not just the greatest teams. I know Strat does have some Japanese leagues out there, but more of the non-conventional baseball would be where I would start, or a really good cards and dice, college basketball, college football. I know there are some college basketball games out there, but I'd love to see Strat or some of the other companies do that. I think that'd be really good. Maybe get some more of these questions up, and I'll be right back. Oh my goodness, I got a bunch of these to read on the Digital and Dice group. Let me take a sip of soda. David has asked, and David's asked me a couple times when I'm going to do this, and I'm so sorry this is later than I thought. He asks, I've heard it said we live in the best of quote-unquote sport gaming times because of all the games and seasons we have to choose from, many available instantly by PDF download. However, he asks, was it arguably better back in the day when there was much less choice and when he feels we used to cherish each purchase much more and were prepared to persevere if a game didn't give us an instant hit? It sometimes seems to me that many in the community are now just serial collectors and less so that are they players, but quickly try then move on. Reminds him a bit of the vinyl LP revival. I don't own any LPs, if that makes you feel any better. I listen to the Beatles on Spotify on my speaker. Many purchase them as artifacts to be collected and displayed rather than being enjoyed for their primary purpose, and actually got 6 likes. Was it arguably better back in the day when there was much less choice? No. I can understand why people are nostalgic for that. The one thing I think that they did better over here, and I know you have Lamborn and Owlsat games in the UK, and I have a couple of those, and they're fantastic, is that you could find this stuff in a store. The first sim I bought, card and dice sim, was Stratomatic, and I bought it in a toy store at a mall, KB Toys, which I don't think you had over in the UK. And you got whatever came in the box and that. And so, yes, there was that, and of course the anticipation of opening day and all that. I don't think that was better. I think that, and I think the reason why is that so much of this information was just closed off, so people couldn't create. I got the Sporting News as a kid, which was a weekly newspaper, and in the back it had ads for games, a Micro League Baseball, which I ended up getting, and baseball cards and football cards and all that, along with I don't know if there was an app, Pursue the Pennant, I think, was in there. So you could find out about this stuff. And yeah, Dave did a whole chat one night on anticipation. And no, I don't think so. Although I think that we all have what Fuzzy on the Delphi boards would call multiple game disorder, I think the creativity that the community brings to not only what they expect from their games, but what is designed and what you could play far exceeds the good old days. I mean, you grew up with 5 channels on television. Did you want to be able to watch a football match live, or were you content to wait till Des came on at 10 to show you the highlights? I mean, yes, that was good, and the BBC packages things very well, but there are a lot. I understand where you're coming from that, and I guess kind of like today with the glut of sports on television, that there's nothing that's really special, just because everything is available all the time. But again, the gaming community, as far as game creators are concerned, produce such high quality stuff, and you're always interested to see what they take on it. I mean, it's up to you what you choose to buy. I mean, if the thing with PDFs is that you don't have to worry about how much it costs to ship overseas, as it is in your case. I know people that are Canadian that just kind of grit their teeth when they have to do that. And PDFs are just so much an easier way to do that, and you can decide what you want to print and what you don't want to print. So I can see the argument for that, but no, this really is there. I mean, you're going to get more people to play because you're going to find something that is more tailored to how you want to play, as opposed to being just stuck with Strat, APA, and Pursue the Pennant for baseball. I mean, it was just kind of an underground field. I never even heard of APA Journal or Strat Fan Magazine until the internet. I just didn't know it was out there. I mean, so... yeah, I can understand why people are nostalgic, but again, I don't own any records either. Nick says, what sport have you not tried on the tabletop that you want to try next? I can't imagine there isn't anything I haven't tried once or twice. I just bought a track and field game. An easier to play cricket game would be one. I've played the Big Four. A pure card and dice soccer game. That would be. I mean, there's Dice United, but something a little more involved than Dice United. There's classic soccer, which I have. I don't really fully understand it. So something along that line would be good. Again, I've played so much. I can't get Gary Stishin's horse racing game to work. I've done Lon's horse racing game both in Excel and on the computer. That's fun. Honestly, a horse racing stable game would be something that I would thoroughly enjoy. Breed your own horses and race your own horses, and that's kind of crazy. So that would be the one that I would like to try. I'm looking at a swimming game. I have Roberto Civini swimming game, but they have the Lamborn, which did the track and field game that I have, has that. A good F1 game that's not super involved would be great too. I have classic F1. It is the ultimate. So something motorsport's good, but something that's more geared for. So a good F1 and an easier cricket and soccer. What game, David Troppins asks, that was once produced but now defunct, would you like to see revived? NASCAR Grandstand. That was Tom Minks NASCAR for DOS. Those were great games. NASCAR Grandstand took a race, broke it into 20 segments, so many pit stops, dice rolling for strategy. It took you 2 or 3 hours to do a race. You could do an entire season. You get behind a driver, and it really was good. A good way to present how a stock car race should go. You need an older version of Excel to do it, and I don't think they produced any more seasons. There was like 35 seasons for it. That was a great game. Motorsport, I haven't tried the NASCAR module for it, but I'd love to see Dave Cook make an auto racing game. I think there would be a market for it. Does that mean? Let's see. Tony asks, what are some of your favorite PC games that most play like a traditional cards and dice table game? Any of the strat games do a very good job with that. Second and 10 at its heart is a cards and dice game. Anything I do with Digital Diamond is that. So the strat ones I think are the closest. Replay does a good job with those, but I don't play those an awful lot. So a favorite would be Strat and Digital Diamond. Those all the Stratomatic baseball, you can roll your own dice. I mean, it really is as close to that as possible. If you shut off the automatic balks and wild pitches in Super Advanced, you control everything. I turn them back on. So that's what I would do. If you do Excel spreadsheet games, Above the Rim, because that is cards and dice, and it does all the stats for you. So great games. Make sure I use masking tape. Okay. Steve asks, are game designers tending towards PDF offerings, or will gamers continue to demand print products despite printing and shipping costs? I think smaller designers would be glad to get rid of the overhead of A, having to have stock, and B, trying to find cheap ways to print. You're not making a lot of money by printing products. So PDF, I think, for some things, are the way to go. If someone wants to pay for the printed product, for the smaller companies, it's a question of how many sets do you produce. I know that Payoff Pitch has the best cards in the business, and their cards are reasonably cheap. But he knows that printer, and so if you were starting one out now, PDF would be the way to do it, because you don't have to worry about the hassle of losing things and shipping. How much, are you going to make any money by sending out a printed set and postage? I think for me, as someone who's trying to do it in a couple online businesses, you get nailed, absolutely nailed on postage if you do it wrong. And so it's great, and people will be grateful if you do the printed products. The bigger companies, Strat, Apple, will always print. There will always be a demand. And I think that, if you like a game that's only offered in PDF, you could ask for it to be printed. I know that there are third-party companies that will print. Drive-Through Cards, I believe, does that for Hockey Bones. Again, it has to be worthwhile for the game company and whoever is printing out the cards to do so. So I think you'll never see everything be completely PDF. And outside of Strat and Napa, who I don't think will ever offer PDF, I think you'll see everyone else offer both. Although Strat now does offer online stuff. Do you do the same? Jim asks, do you do the same replay or project twice? I tried that once. Didn't turn out very well. Example, as played season, then try what if or as carded. I don't usually do the same season twice. I tried that once and didn't enjoy it as much the second time. Except for 78 baseball, which I've done in a variety of different ways. All the Action PC stuff is as played, and I don't think I would redo a season. Maybe another engine. And if I would do another season, another engine, it would be much more as an as carded or what if. So let's say I did 67 as played at one point. Obviously, the Red Sox are going to lose Tony Congligliero come August. And if you're really going to redo 1967, that's the what if, that you keep him in there, and he's going to be one of the 20 people or 25 people that are as carded. So, the general answer to that, Jim, is no. I'm not necessarily opposed to it. It just doesn't grab my fancy. And most of my projects offline are not as played. As played is easier to do because I parachute into things. I'm not doing one team day in and day out. And the computer, it just puts everyone on a level playing field. Ken asks, when leading by a goal or two in the third period of APC Hockey, what tips or strategies do you use to help lock down the win? Keep pressing. Balanced. Draw forward on the face-offs. Don't go into a shell. That would be my thing. If you're the better team, you're going to win. And when they pull the goalie, when they're down by a goal late in the third period, always shoot at the empty net. That runs. You want that clock to run. Take the timeout. Put your best players on with 2 minutes to go. Take the timeout with a minute to go if the computer hasn't taken the timeout. Have the timeouts enabled. Even in the season where there wasn't necessarily a timeout. Because if you can keep your best defenders on those last 2 or 3 minutes, that's going to help you out a lot. And you might steal a goal. 73-74 Seals versus the 75-76 Scouts. Who wins the best of 7 and why? Not even on ESPN8 would they do that. I asked Gardner. He said the Seals. Is the win over Syracuse in 2005 the best moment in the state of Vermont sports history? No. We have a number of gold medalists in skiing. Barbara Cochran in 72 in Sapporo. She's from Richmond, not too far away from me. Some of those freestyle skiers have won Lindsay Jacobellis has won Olympic golds. So those, I think, would be, if you were asked people there. I know that basketball fans, because of the way that they upset Syracuse, would be there. What would I say would be the top moment in Vermont sports history? Well, the year that my high school basketball team won on a walk-off free throw, that was pretty good. 1988 Division II state championships. Hartwood over Lamoille, 71-70. That would be notable. I would think that anything that was an Olympic gold medal by a Vermonter would be there. In fact, we actually have a woman from Berkshire who is qualified for the 5,000 in Paris in a few weeks, and tonight she's actually running in the 1,500 trials. So if she was to actually medal an event, that would be pretty big. But the freestyle skiers, I think, would be the biggest there. Probably was the biggest up. Oh yeah, and there's also been twice in UVM history that they've made the Frozen Four, including one with John LeClaire. They made I think one year they lost in the semifinals both times. A couple of years ago, they actually made the Final Eight in the NCAA soccer tournament. The men did. In fact, on my birthday, they beat UCLA up here in 30-degree weather. So Vermont actually has a pretty good sports history. They've won some World Series. Larry Gardner, Bertie Tebbetts. Larry Gardner was on some of those Red Sox teams that won the World Series about 100 years ago. John LeClaire had a couple overtime goals for Montreal in the 93 Stanley Cup. He's from Vermont. So, yeah, I guess it's among them, but I would not say it was the best moment. Ronnie asks, not me, what is the best hockey game if you're just starting out as a hockey fan and don't understand all the rules of hockey? Stone Cold. Shootout's pretty good too, but Stone Cold for me is a better storyteller. Paul asks, what's my ultimate project? The greatest project I can think of that I've never started or never finished. I think it would be a full league season project, as in every game. That would be the ultimate. Will I do it? No. I've thought about doing a 9-team 78 baseball project, anyone that finished within 5 games. But it takes a long time. What I'm doing now, Paul, offline, the 93 National League, doing 4 teams, that's probably pretty close to that. But a full season baseball project would be the ultimate. The thing is that you kind of, that's a marathon and a half. Michael asks, you've probably addressed this. I don't know. Have I? But how do I address game fatigue? As much as you love the game, you're kind of a little sick of it too. Oh, game fatigue as in tired of the game. You take breaks. There's no due date for when a project's done. If you're in the middle of a project, and if not, just put the game away for a while and come back to it. Every game has its quirks. Every game, there's no such thing as a perfect game. There's going to be something that drives you crazy if you play it enough or if you overplay it. So just put the game away and come back to it when you're ready. And that's how I do it. How do I get restarted playing a game? A one-off or a project, John asks. How do I get restarted playing a game? Usually it's a one-off if I haven't played in a while, or a small project. If there's a game that I know that I like, or really, really like, such as Strat Basketball, which is not something I play a ton of, I'll just start a project. But for something that I haven't played and may not be familiar with the rules, or something that gets changed, a one-off with 2 teams that I'm familiar with is great, because it makes you kind of forget the game mechanics and you focus more on playing the actual game itself, the teams themselves. Jimmy asks, why are sports simulations and solo gaming so addictive? My gateway drug was Stratomatic Baseball 4 years ago. Now I have a closet overflowing with seasons and a bookshelf overflowing with games, and I keep buying more. Don't buy any LPs. CDs sound better. And if you put the MP3 to 330 kilobits per second, not 128, it's CD quality, and it sounds better than vinyl. That's not what you asked, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I think that it is just kind of like people who love reading books. You can be transported back to a sport or a season or a decade or a lifestyle or anything else that you simply loved. And you can go back there at any time and any place and relive it, explore it, re-examine it, and all that. And so I think that is the draw. It's not just nostalgia, but it's you can control your own gaming destiny. And I think in a day and age where there is just so much available for sports, but I'm not even going to get into whether it's good or not, but the overkill of what you have available to you. You can control what you play. You can control what you want. You don't have to worry about commercials. You don't have to worry about what someone that you might not have liked 30 years ago might have said in a newspaper interview or whatever. It is you are in control and command of what you take in, and that becomes addictive. You are not subject to paying $50 to park or $200 a month to stream or blah, 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 blah. There are no commercials. There are no stoppages unless the cat knocks something down. You want to play a football game, you can do it in about an hour. You want to play a baseball game, you can play it in 20 minutes or watch it in 2.5 hours. I think that's the big thing, is that people realize that not only they can go back to any era that they want to go back, that you want to go back to, but it just goes so much smoother. All right, one more stoppage here for me. Take a sip of soda and the last couple questions. You get to watch me drink a soda. Glenn asked, it's time for MLB to do away with interleague play. Would that bring a little more juice back to the All-Star game? All-Star game should be USA versus the world. They'll never do away with interleague play. That genie is well out of the bottle. It's actually been suggested since the 1960s, maybe even earlier than that. It's great for television. In the day-to-day things of that, do I like it? No. Do I understand it? Yes. Personally, I'd much rather either cancel the All-Star game or have it USA versus the world, or do a 3-team tournament. USA, Japan, and Dominican. That'd be pretty good, wouldn't it? I mean, the World Baseball Classic, you could never have that in season just because of the possibility for injuries, but that is just so intense. There's a lot of juice in that. If you could add a rule or get rid of a rule in the Big Four, which ones would you add and which ones would you eliminate? Swedish Jeff asked that. And I say, for baseball, I would mandate 16 batters and 10 pitchers. Have a list of 15 pitchers with options that you can kind of rotate back and forth. I don't have a problem with that. But 16 batters. I like the full-time DH in both leagues. I kind of like the concept of removing the DH once you take out the starter. That's an interesting thing. But I want to see baseball with deeper benches. Football, I want to see him go back to the one period of sudden death. You want to win the game, do it in 60 minutes. You lose it on a field goal in overtime, do a better job the next time. I like the old that. If everyone had that, then I would just make sure, if you really want both teams to touch the football at the end in overtime, play a full quarter. And then go sudden death. Just start the fifth quarter at the end of the fourth quarter. Don't even do that. I guess that would be the rule I would change. So it'd be sudden death, and if you're driving at the end of the game, then you take over. Your possession continues. It's like the start of the fourth quarter again. That's what I would change. Basketball. I don't really watch a lot of basketball. You know what? 3 to make 2, which is the way it used to be for foul shots. Even the NBA did that till 80-81. So after you get the bonus, it's 3 shots to make 2. I kind of like most of the rules. And I like the fact that basketball is, with the exception of the NBA, pretty much has a unified rule set for every level in professional women's, the 10-minute quarters and the shot clock and all that. 12-man rosters, or maybe I like that. And I like the fact they got rid of the. No, actually, you know what? In non-pro ball, I would like to see the double bonus, the 1-and-1. You got to make that first foul shot. Shooting fouls, obviously, 3 to make 2, but free throws are important. Hockey. I would go to a 10-minute overtime and then call it a day. That would be the rule I would change. That's about it. As far as what I would eliminate, I think hockey is in pretty good shape as far as the on-ice product is concerned. I think for basketball and hockey, I would just kind of keep it all in conference. Football, I would not go to an 18-game season. I would do a 2-game preseason and a 16-game regular season. Injuries are just too much there. I'd shorten baseball season back to 154 games too. All right, next question. Oh, we got a Wolfie and a Wolf. Wolfie asked about me playing action PC football. I haven't bought a football game in a couple years. And I probably aren't going to buy a football game in a couple years. I really don't like football. And I don't really want to spend money on games just to have them. There are some great football games out there, Action PC being one of them. The football games that I've gotten either are ones that I have or ones that have been furnished to Dave or myself. And even those that I don't pay for, I don't necessarily play a lot of. It's just not a game that really thrills me. There's two things about a sport that makes me want to play. I kind of have to like the sport. So basketball and hockey certainly do that, although I really don't follow the NBA that much. And my Montreal Canadiens are not good. Or two, have an interest in a certain era of a sport. And right now in football, I don't really have an interest in either. So when I played it, Gardner would love for me to go back and do more football. I get bored. I really get bored playing football. So I really don't enjoy it. So the answer to that is no. Let's see. I think that's it. I think I got it. All right, I think that's it. So that where you go. You got all the questions you ever wanted. And we're not afraid to ask. Thank you so much for everyone who submitted questions. And hopefully Dave and I are going to be working on a show soon. He's got some stuff going on. So this kind of qualifies as a non-official episode of Digital Dice. Hey, thanks so much for your questions. We'll talk to you the next time. So long, everybody.